like everybody else. Perhaps the starting point for me too was the inability to wrap my head around the fact that how could a species poison its own food before eating it? How could a species do this to its own children? But it turned out to be nothing more than a scratch on the surface. The story had its roots running much deeper, its tentacles spreading much farther. More than anything, this again was a story like all our other stories we had just decided to bury. Supplanted by lies, deceit, and make-believe. The constituents of our very foundation. But still, the strangeness of the intensity of the ignorance, immensity of the disconnect with the real, was hard to believe. Because in this case, particularly in this case, it was something happening right under our nose, literally. Because in this case, this was something of critical importance, most essential to our very existence. Because in this case, this also was our very connection with the planet, the very condition for our survival. Food. Food, the thread that hangs us on to life. Our food, the act that can snap the thread of life. Ours as well as that of the planet. So what is it that makes us not see the evident? What is it that makes us intentionally blind to the so plainly obvious? I took that journey to explore these questions. But for the time being, for the purpose of this documentary, I'll be focusing on investigating the story of food. I propose that we undertake this investigation, this journey together. So this is how it will work. At some points, I'll request you to pause, ponder over, take your time, and play when ready. Please feel free to do so, even when not requested. May you be given the endurance to revisit this story. This is your story, after all. At this point, could you please help me identify some of the most crucial ecological issues we are facing today?
If you think a little deeply, you might be able to understand that all that we listed was coming, including population, okay, from the deforestation, but we can think more about it later for the timing. So, and where does the food come from? You can trace your source to the farmer, and further, where does the farmer grow? The farm, okay? The farmer is growing food on the farms. And what was there before there was a farm? There was a whole forest, okay? Not just trees, but there was a forest. So there's this forest standing out there. You need your food because you want to be alive, correct? And your food, particularly your food, comes from the farms. And there's a forest out there. So what do you have to do?
Out of about 2 million years of our existence as humans, just about 10,000 years ago, some of us started authoring a new story.
And once again, I would like to point out here, when when the slide was there that 10,000 years, the point here is some of us, not all of us. It is our story. It is not the only story. It may be the most dominant, the most brutal, the most powerful story right now, but this is not the only story. This is not a human story. This is the story of a human culture, not humans per se. Don't mistake this about human species. I always like to distinguish between these two things, and it's extremely important. This is not about human species, this is about a particular human culture, that's all.
And the opening sentence of this story is, "This is my piece of land." With this, the biggest shift in the history of Earth happens. We do not belong to the land belongs to us. We do not belong to earth belongs to us. And with this begins a race to exploit. Whoever exploits the most becomes the most powerful. The rest will have to be subservient. With this, we take our first step to crush egalitarian societies and build hierarchical ones. With this, we take our first step to crush whatever is tender, delicate, and beautiful. From here begins our annihilation of the wild and free. From here on we reject. Whatever is alive cannot be owned.
$500, $600,
From here on, we believe whatever is owned cannot be alive. With this, we step into the mass culture of endless raping.
Human trafficking is on the rise.
Anyone with information on the missing girl is being urged to contact crime.
Another girl has gone missing
As many
today.
as 20,000 women have been sold so far into Greece's alarmingly booming sex trade industry.
It astounds me that not only does human trafficking exist on the earth today, but that there are actually more slaves than there've ever been before in the history of humanity. There are actually more slaves than there've ever been before in the history of humanity.
From here unfolds our story of decay and destruction, of captivity, torture, and perversion. From here begins the declaration of war with Earth and all her other children.
And there's a forest out there. So what do you have to do? right from the very first step. We are stepping into all the crises, all the issues you just listed.
This is the world as we know it. This is the world as we become it. This is the world we'll go charging right into. This is the world we are destined to. This is the world we are waking. This is the time that we will be begging. This is the world we wanted. And this is the world we got. This is the world we wanted. This is the world we got. This is the world as soon as we know it. Dark and cold and desolate. A wasteland of destruction as we have always wanted it. And the bells toll, and the bells toll, and those bells. This is the world that we both wanted. We spent all our lives and every day just making it happen. We paved the road to this demise. But I wanna hold your hand to the very end. I don't care if the world comes crashing down. We know it's inevitable. It's just the way it has to be. This is the world as soon as we know it. Dark and cold and desolate. A wasteland of destruction as we have always wanted it.